We have to talk. We have to talk about Titanfall 3 now.
G'day guys, today is May 2nd, 2025, and we've got a whole bunch of pretty cool announcements actually. We've got Titanfall cancellation, but we don't talk about that. We've got Hollow Knight, we've got some pretty cool new hardware stuff, and that's all coming up in just a second. I don't know, I feel like I'm segueing into a sponsored section. I'm not, there is no sponsored section. Let's start with Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight fans, Silk posters, and that one daily Silksong news guy. We've all rejoiced at a new announcement today that there will be a playable demo of Silksong in September of this year. Unfortunately, however, the demo is location locked, specifically to ACMI, which is the Australian Centre for the Moving Image, which is a museum located in Melbourne, Australia. It's right in the middle of the city. It's a very cool building. I've been there a few times. We will 100% be seeing footage from people playing the demo. Last time I went to ACMI, there was this whole section dedicated to Team Cherry and Hollow Knight with art books and early sketches. It was actually really, really cool. I don't know if I would personally make the trip to Melbourne just to play probably a few minutes of like a really crowded demo, but I think at the end of the day, Hollow Knight fans are just kind of excited we're seeing more of the game. After years and years, we saw the Nintendo Direct, I think that was last month, and now with this, we're getting more and more news, and I think we might be gearing up for like a late 2025 release, which is awesome. Next up, Titanfall fans, it's happened again. A few weeks ago, we got news of a potential new release in the Titanfall universe, probably a Titanfall 3. Now, like, we've gotten this dozens of times now. I can't even count how many times we've heard about a leak of Titanfall 3 or that Respawn was hiring a whole bunch of new people, you know, for an Apex or a Titanfall like title. However, this new one has already been cancelled by EA and Respawn with this huge round of layoffs that happened this week. I think it was 300 people with like 100 of them being at Respawn. I think even if you're not a Titanfall fan, you know, if you're an Apex fan or if you're looking forward to that new Star Wars Jedi game they announced a little while ago, this is a pretty big blow. People just want news about a new Titanfall release or even something relevant to Apex. And that seems like what Respawn is sort of gearing towards. But I can't count how many times we've had like a project like that just for it to be canned. I don't want to sound cynical, but Respawn released this real nothing burger of a statement, you know, thanking their employees for being part of the journey. And from reports that I've seen, at least it's not as bad as some of the layoffs that happened at companies like Bungie, where people were getting locked out of the building. But with the state that Respawn's games are currently in, this is just kind of another strike against them going forward. Speaking of Bungie, let's talk a little bit about them. We've got both Destiny and Marathon news and sort of updates. If you're watching this video, the chances are that you're a Bungie fan or at least a Destiny fan. We know that next week we're going to be getting the Edge of Fate reveal on May 6th at 9 a.m. Pacific time. That's not going to be a dev stream. The dev stream will probably be announced a little bit later, but it is just going to be the reveal, you know, the cinematic trailer, all that stuff that people get really hyped about. I think regardless, a trailer for the next direction of Destiny sort of going forwards is pretty cool. In terms of Marathon, the playtest has been ongoing. It's just kind of chugging along. They've done some updates. I didn't get in, probably partially on account that I live in Australia, but they did make some pretty sweeping changes addressing some of the major complaints and concerns from both like viewers and players at the moment. The biggest one being this whole aim assist on keyboard and mouse thing. Destiny has this kind of with the bullet magnetism system, but there's no actual reticle stickiness like there was at least in Marathon. That's all been removed now. It's not like console aim assist and stickiness. There's also been some changes towards health and shield, where I personally thought the big issue was that people didn't have enough shield, so they always had to be kind of spamming healing items. But they've reduced the shield amount. Look, I don't know. They said that it was because people with high-end shields were at like a huge advantage, which I think that's kind of how it's supposed to be. You have good gear, and in an extraction shooter, you're supposed to be able to, beat other people. Like you go to, sort of Tarkov, and they have the different bullet penetration levels, and people with high end armor are literally just like face tanking bullets, not even taking damage. So I don't understand why they want to keep competitive integrity between like low level casual players and high end, people with full gear. I get that it's sort of aiming towards casual play, but I feel like it's just going to make the progression not feel worth it. At the end of the day, I don't know. I haven't played it yet, right? That's just from me watching some people and seeing some of the complaints online. I've always been excited about extraction shooters, but in practice, I'm never really gripped by them. Something about the competitive aura and the gameplay loop seems to always turn me off. I'm going to play Marathon like 100%. Hopefully, whenever I get into the playtest, I'll have some time to actually be able to decide if I'm a fan of it or not. But I know a lot of people are kind of let down already overall. However, speaking of extraction shooters, Raiders had its first real public playtest release this week, and oh my god, I didn't get in again. That's okay, it looks really, really good. It's super exciting and decently innovative, actually. In case you didn't know, Raiders is being developed by Embark Studios, which is the same team who made, and I think still currently work on, the finals. That's a pretty good, solid background to inspire some confidence from people. They've got this big mech spider thing that they keep showing off, and this super interesting post-apocalyptic world that kind of reminds a lot of people of Fallout 3. And a lot of the systems seem geared towards casuals while still having some of that depth and those layers that hardcore and super active players really look forward to. At the moment, I think it's a huge Marathon competitor. Bungie really has to kind of clean up Marathon and decide what their audience is and how they're going to properly cater to casuals while keeping people engaged for a long period of time. Otherwise, they're going to really struggle, I think, to keep up and compete with Arc Raiders. The current Arc Raiders playtest is, I think, accepting more and more people every day on Steam. I highly recommend you go sign up for it if you're a fan of extraction shooters, or even if you're looking for something to get into the genre for the first time. Say that you are going to play Marathon, but you haven't sort of played a game like Tarkov or anything like that ever, or even in years. This looks like a really, really good stepping stone just to sort of get in, figure things out, get back into it, right? I think Arc Raiders might actually end up being one of the most accessible titles for a wide audience, which is something that Marathon has been actively working towards, but just isn't right there right now. Oh, also, the PC requirements for Elden Ring Nightrein dropped. It really doesn't seem like you're going to need a high-end system to play it, especially compared to some of the other AAA games that have released or will be releasing this year. Things like Monster Hunter Wilds. One of the biggest surprises about this list of requirements is actually that you're only going to need 30 gigs of space to download it, which in a world of 100 gig downloads is wild to see. If you've been holding off on getting a GPU upgrade, it might be a good time just to wait a little longer. According to some new reports from TechSpot, Video Cards, and others, NVIDIA is getting ready to release their super versions of the RTX 5070 and 5080 cards just months after the original hit shelves. The main upgrade between the different models is more VRAM. While exact specs haven't been confirmed officially, the expectation is that these new super editions would come with a bump in memory, potentially 24 gig and 18 gig for the 5080 Super and 5070 Super respectively, to help handle modern high-res textures, large AI models, and games that make use of advanced features like ray tracing and path tracing. Now, it's worth pointing out that NVIDIA hasn't officially confirmed these updates yet, but historically, the super refresh cycle has been NVIDIA's go-to move when they want to re-energize a generation without launching a brand new archetype. So, this wouldn't be out of character for them. Bottom line, if you're a spec chaser or just want more future-proofing for your money, it might be worth keeping an eye on this one. A little more VRAM could go a long way in the years ahead. So also, as we get closer to the launch of the Switch 2, the news cycle is starting to heat up in a big way. And I gotta say, some of the early predictions are pretty mind-blowing. According to analysts, speaking with VentureBeat, there's a real possibility that the Switch 2 could become the best-selling console of all time. Like, seriously, we're talking over 100 million units. That would put it up there with like the PlayStation 2 and higher than the original Switch. And given how dominant Nintendo's been in the handheld space recently, it's honestly not that crazy of a forecast. But it's also not just sales hype. We're finally starting to hear about the hardware from people who've actually worked with it. CDPR, the devs behind Cyberpunk and The Witcher, just gave the Switch 2 some pretty serious praise, actually. They said it's got much better memory and general performance than the Steam Deck, and it's a genuinely powerful platform to develop for, which is crazy when you compare, like, a lot of the stories and stuff that we see about, you know, the original Switch and how it just kind of was a little lackluster in the hardware department. Now get this though, Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition is coming to the Switch 2. Full game, Phantom Liberty included, all of the updates running at 1080p docked, 720 handheld, with DLSS and VRR helping smooth it out. Now that's a wild, wild leap from what the original Switch was capable of. Like, imagine playing Cyberpunk on a handheld and it's actually really good. That's like massive. So yeah, there's a ton of momentum here. But, and there's always a but, right? If you're living in Central America or the Caribbean, you're actually going to be out of luck this year. Nintendo has confirmed that the Switch 2 won't launch in those regions in 2025. There was no specific reason given, but likely it comes down to logistics and regional distribution priorities. With all the diehards having pre-ordered and the launch lineup, pricing, and release date now less than 6 weeks away, all that's left is the wait. If early demand is anything to go by, the Switch 2 is shaping up to be Nintendo's biggest console launch yet, even bigger than the Wii. All in all, let me know what you're most excited for, or if you're holding off until they actually fix Joy-Con drift this time. So, all in all, that's everything we've got for this week. Be sure to let me know down in the comments below anything that you're excited for, or anything that we missed. And also, if you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.